Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to having Dr. Shaan Patel on again. Shaan, it's great to connect with you. You were on a couple of years ago, and it was a great talk, and I'm looking forward to diving in. You have a great company. You founded Prep Expert. You're the founder and CEO of that company. We're going to dive into it. And basically, it's, after spending hundreds of hours studying for the SAT in high school, you basically created a prep course to help students achieve their own dreams. And now you just recently published your new book, Digital SAT Playbook, which we'll dive into, and I'm looking forward to that. So it's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming back on and talking about what you're up to these days, and talking about your business. I do want to talk about one thing. As we get started, I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And one of the things I want to talk about, I have a 21-year-old who's going to be a senior in the fall, and my daughter is going to be a freshman in the fall. And so I've been through the SATs. We've been through tutors. We've been through taking them again, et cetera, et cetera. Where is one place people get stuck in the mindset of studying for the SATs, and how do you and your courses get them unstuck?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would say to that is people get stuck a lot with the mindset. It's probably the biggest thing, actually. So, a lot of parents and students and families will say, they'll just throw their hands up and say, well, my student's not good at standardized tests. How many times have I heard that? How many times have you heard that, right? That is not a good mindset or mentality to have about anything. Because imagine an entrepreneur came to you, or a business executive, and said, well, I'm just not good at management, or I'm just not good at leading teams.
Yeah.
These are skill sets that you have to learn over time, practice, and you will become better. And it's the same thing with standardized testing. So there are very few people out there that are naturally good standardized test takers. I know I certainly wasn't. The first SAT I ever took, I barely scored above average. But then I slowly worked my way through practice exams, through strategies, through key techniques to eventually raise my own score to perfect. And so that's what we help other students do. We have students improve on average 200 to 300 points to their SAT scores and 4 points on the ACT at prepexpert.com. And that's really what we do with our courses, is really changing that mindset, as well as teaching them hundreds of strategies, techniques to apply to these exams.
Yeah. Let's thank you for that. I appreciate that, because I wish I had this, 30 years ago, because I am not good at taking standardized tests, and it would have been helpful for me to take it. But I want to dive into one thing that we've seen a lot of changes recently, where over the last couple of years, test scores have been optional. And now they're bringing test scores back at many of the universities that got rid of them. Now they're bringing them back. And I think there was maybe a little bit of a pause button on the SATs, the ACTs, which one you would take, would you take both, what universities wanted. What's one thing everybody kind of needs to get back into sync with when it comes to not only taking the tests, but how far in advance do you need to start really studying for the tests?
Yeah, very interesting news recently in college admissions, as you pointed out. Many colleges went test optional during the pandemic, reasonably so, because students couldn't be in the same testing room together. However, now many top universities, including Harvard, Yale, MIT, Dartmouth, Brown, Caltech, Georgetown, University of Texas at Austin. I mean, I could go on and on. The list goes on and on in terms of universities that are reinstating SAT and ACT requirements. And the reason for that is it shows that students without an SAT or ACT score perform more poorly in college. And the reason for that is oftentimes because of all the grade inflation that's happened in the school systems. Now about 47% of all high school seniors graduate with an A average. So A used to be exceptional, now A is average,
Right.
and so it's really hard to tell students apart when everyone's got a 4.0.
Yeah.
And so these universities are bringing back the tests. They're no longer optional at most top universities. And I imagine many hundreds more are going to be announcing over the next year or two
Yeah.
as the research and the data comes through. So
Yeah.
for parents and students out there who are listening, I would get started with your test preparation as soon as ninth or 10th grade. I know a lot of people like to wait until 11th or 12th grade, but at that point, oftentimes you've missed the boat in terms of the preliminary SAT, getting national merit scholarships. And, it's really hard to improve your score in 2 weeks, as many parents and students try to come and say, my test in 2 weeks, can I improve my score?
Yeah.
I really like to take the long-term outlook with this
Yeah.
stuff.
I think that's important. And you're right. I mean, with the great inflation, there's pros and cons to projects and being able to take a test over, and I think for many people it's a good thing. But you're right. It doesn't show the playing field exactly how it should be for when kids get to college. All right, good. Well, thank you. Thanks for that, Shane. I appreciate it. So I want to do a mini business course with you, because I want to kind of extract some of the things from your book, Digital SAT Playbook: Winning Strategies to Achieve Your Dream Score, by you, Dr. Shane Patel, forwarded by Mark Cuban, and we'll get to Mark Cuban a little bit later. Um, so so give me three things that people will get from the book, and let's kind of break it down into simple steps. What's number one?
Yeah. So number one is inspiration and motivation. I think this is something that's missing in a lot of test prep books, but I think that my own personal story of raising my score from average to perfect, growing up in my parents' budget motel to Ivy League universities, as well as bootstrapping a business from $900 to now a multi-million dollar company, hopefully, as well as becoming a doctor as well, inspires people to show, how much my own life changed from changing my test score
Yeah.
to change their own. Second, so that's number one. Number two, outside of inspiration and motivation, are the actual techniques, right? That's the most important part, which are the strategies, techniques, and tips to apply to the actual SAT or ACT or other standardized tests to help you improve your score. And then third, and I think this is actually the most important, is the motivation to improve in all of academics. So, I really consider this book, Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook, to go from test prep to life prep. What do I mean by that? I really talk about internal motivation, finding your why, how to use the secret to success, which I believe is self control and delayed gratification, not only to improve your test scores, but to improve in all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So those would be my big three.
I love it. I love it. I just want to comment on a couple of things. You're talking about, I love books that not only talk about the extrinsic benefits of what you can get from, a great score, but it really does start, it starts within, right? It's the intrinsic, whatever drive, feeling, etc. So, and I think people have a hard time sometimes defining it, getting to that space. So I always love when a book can help guide people to that space. I think it's really really important, and it just makes it a little more full rounded for people to wrap their arms around. So that's great. That's great. So a couple things. So I want to kind of dive into that and do a mini life course. Right? You've had a cool life, right? Like you said, from your parents' budget hotel, Ivy League school, starting a business, and then you just left out being on Shark Tank, right? So I'll kind of throw that one in where we talked about this the last time we were on the show. Mark Cuban invested in your business. He's forwarded your book. I just finished Mark's masterclass on masterclass.com, which
Oh,
was
how was it? I haven't gone through it yet.
incredible. I loved every second of it. I got an email. I'm going to email him because he said he answers every email. I'm going to email him, but I loved it. It was brilliant, and I loved everything. Brought a ton of value. But I want to talk about how your book takes people to life prep, and and finding your why, and finding your passion, and finding your intrinsic drive. Right. So in your story, to me, a through line of you is you being able to find that intrinsic drive. And I don't think that's easy, especially today with phones and distractions. And so if you had to give people three pieces of advice on, kind of how to tap into that in the intrinsic feeling and drive and, courage, what would those be?
Yeah, this is a great question. And so, I'll answer it from the perspective of a student as well as the perspective of an entrepreneur. So, for a student, who's studying for the SAT, I would say identify your larger goal. No one wants a high SAT score just to get a high SAT score. Is there a specific university you want to get into? Or do you want to get $100,000 in college scholarships? Find out what drives you. For me, it was to get into a combined medical program that was highly competitive. That will motivate you to study and turn off all the technology and tune out the distractions, as you were talking about. For entrepreneurs, I would say identify your goal, right? Do you want to hit $100,000 in revenue? Do you want to hit 1 million in revenue? How fast do you want to do it? And, that will drive you to come up with strategies, tactics, and techniques, just like students do on the SAT to improve their score, but in entrepreneurs and business owners to hit those revenue goals, or, it doesn't have to be revenue. It could be other goals that you have, et cetera. But you really need that internal motivation and identify your why. Otherwise, like, external motivators, like, for students, like their parents, it just doesn't work as well.
Short lived. Short
Yeah.
lived. Yeah.
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 And then to your point, one of the strategies in the book is actually called turn off the tech. Because even I love social media, I love the internet, but especially for a high school teenager, or even a 34-year-old entrepreneur like myself, it can be very distracting. So when you need to get some real work done or some real studying done, um, you know, there's been a lot of studies, actually. Students score higher on tests when their phone is in a different room compared to when it's even sitting on the desk turned off, because just the sight of your phone
Yeah.
makes your brain wander, thinking like, what did I miss, etc. Are there any text messages? Could I actually go on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, right? So try to limit the technology as much as possible. Use it sparingly. For entrepreneurs out there, if you're trying to get some real work done, I would actually turn off the Wi-Fi, and start building value. Obviously, sometimes you have to be connected to the Wi-Fi. So if that's the case, just don't have any like social media and stuff, news and stuff in the background, that kind of thing.
Yeah. One more tip.
Oh, one more tip related to life, I would say, would be do what you know. So
Yeah.
this is really more for entrepreneurs. I know everyone gets really excited about hype cycles like AI or crypto or whatever it may be. But I would say the most successful entrepreneurs go all in on what they have studied in the past and know really, really well. And it gives you kind of an unfair advantage. So for me, I've spent 10,000 hours on SAT prep. So that's what I'm going to go and do it better than anyone else. Now, if you're not an expert at anything, start studying, start learning before you start a business,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're going to be going into a business that you may not know much about. And there are people with 10,000 hours of experience that will basically eat your lunch. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, and I'll add to that, Shane, a lot of times, people hear that and they think I'm going to do it, but the important part is being diligent to actually focus on the execution, time block in small increments for consistency purposes, and commit to actually what you actually put in your calendar. So it's a process, and that differentiator of actually somebody, what I find executing in my work. is a big difference. And sometimes people overshoot it and you just got to do small every single day to get to your 10,000 hours. Think community, we talk about this a lot. Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm in Detroit, and there was a construction company that had a sign once that said, if Rome were built in a day, we would have hired, that crew. So small things compound over time. So I appreciate that. I want to talk about, you've mentioned kind of, delayed gratification a little bit. My daughter, she took school very seriously. She applied to 14 schools. And then really, she was locked and loaded, and then to go, and then she got accepted to Duke. And so it was, an amazing experience. And
Congratulations.
thank you. So I've been, just, on Instagram with a lot of Duke stuff. And I came across this professor, Aaron, I think his name is Aaron Dinnan. And he has these great following. He has great content, but he posted a video of somebody who didn't get into a school that they had posted that they didn't get in, and then did a talk on the importance of rejection, right? That if you're going to aim high, part of aiming high is also having to deal with rejection. But now I'm putting my own words into it too. But that's the courage needed to kind of go into that arena. And so can you talk about, when people do spend all their time on their SATs, on their ACTs, and sometimes they don't get what they want. The system it's hard. It's hard to get into schools today. Everybody's competing with, so many people with near perfect, if not perfect scores. So you may not get into the school of choice. And so talk a little bit about how to deal with rejection.
Yeah, I mean, I think dealing with rejection and having resilience to failure is the
Yeah.
most important attribute to have in order to be successful. I've never met a student who never got rejected, and a successful student, and I've never met a successful entrepreneur who never got rejected. I've been rejected over and over again. I wanted to go to Brown's medical program. I didn't get in, so I went to USC's medical program. I wanted to go to Harvard Business School. I got rejected, so I went to Yale's business school. I got rejected from 100 literary agents and publishers on my first SAT prep book. They said I didn't have a platform to write the book, that the test prep market was too competitive, et cetera. But I then started my own courses and eventually got my book deal. So the way that I've navigated rejections and failures in my own life is that you have to just pivot and keep trying. And, if you don't pivot and keep trying, you try something new, you keep producing value, then you will get exhausted. You will give up, because you have to do that. You have to be okay with rejection. Know that you're going to get 99 no's, but all you need is one yes. And a lot of times you don't wait for the yeses either. Just build value. It's easier than ever today with the internet to get your product, your ideas, your values out there as an entrepreneur. For students, if you don't get into your dream university, I know plenty of students who do great at junior college, community college. They go and get 4.0s, then they transfer into a much better university, et cetera. So there's all kinds of pivots you can make, whether it's in education or entrepreneurship. And it's nothing to get hung up on or give up. That's really when you end up really failing, is if you don't be resilient to that.
Amen. I love it. You know what I always look at, because I've had a lot of failures as well. And I always, I heard this, I think 15 years ago. And so I kind of grabbed onto it. I think of it as just an expensive seminar. It's just like, to learn the lesson of X.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's like everything isn't a game of yeses. It's a game of no's. And so if you know that you're going to get 99 no's, count the no's until you get to the yes. And then you're kind of closer, just to shift the mindset. And one thing I just want to extract also is, we talk a lot about this on the podcast, and I talk about this with my clients too. Know your value prop. Know what separates you and what differentiates you, no matter what position you are at any company. It's so important. Let's talk about prepexpert.com. The most effective college test prep, live online courses with the best score guarantees, instructors, and curriculum, as you state on your website, prepexpert.com. Who is your ideal clients and tell everybody, what to expect.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of prepexpert.com. As you mentioned, we offer digital SAT courses, ACT courses, as well as college admissions consulting. When we say best score guarantees, we mean we have a 200-point SAT score improvement guarantee and a 4-point ACT score improvement guarantee. 100% money back if you don't get those score improvements at the minimum after going through our 6-week or our 8-week online courses. When we say best instructors, we have 99th percentile instructors teaching our courses. So everyone scored in the top 1%, as well as has thousands of hours of teaching experience. So these are not some video courses we pawn you off on. These are real instructors your student gets to work with and get their questions answered. And when we say best curriculum, this is really the curriculum that I've spent over 10,000 hours perfecting myself. So, people think I have curriculum writers and things like that. Nope. I literally sit down every morning and I work on improving our curriculum to make it the best possible for our students. And so ideal client would be any parents out there who have students in high school. So if you're students in 9th grade or 10th grade or 11th grade or 12th grade, I think you should definitely check out prepexpert.com. You'll get a lot of value. I also just released, so you can also find my book on there. So we got books, courses, consulting for college admissions, which is hyper competitive. And we've been doing it for almost 14 years now. And as John mentioned, we've been on Shark Tank, made a deal with Mark Cuban, and we've helped over 100,000 students now improve their test scores, get into top colleges, but most importantly, win over $100 million in college scholarships.
Amazing. Amazing. Congratulations. I mean, the work you're doing is, you're a conscious capitalist, meaning you're making money in your business, but in such a high conscious, high vibration way. It's amazing what you're doing.
I like to say we do good and we do well. And so
good. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, we get to help parents and students and families, and at the same time, I get to provide for myself, my employees, my tutors, etc. Yeah,
it's amazing. I'm a business coach. I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies, everything in between. But I also have another company, launch-3.com, which is a coaching platform for just people in their kind of 20s and 30s. It's to give them the career, the brand, and the life skills that they need to make it and to really differentiate themselves. And so, it's, we do good and we do well too. So I get that. I get that phrase, but it's like, it's filling a gap. And I have a business partner, David Chernow, and that it's amazing. All right. Quick speed round, Shane. A recent book that's made a big impact on you.
Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor.
I love Bob. He's amazing. Yeah.
It was a really great book. I think paradigm shifts are super important as you're leveling up both in your life, your business, in your education, etc. Yeah. So he talked a lot about
that. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received. So I would say this is something I heard by another entrepreneur. I think his name's Naval Ravikant, but he said, a house full of love, fit body are things that cannot be bought. They must be earned. So it really puts into perspective that it's not all about money.
Yeah. Amen to that. Finish this sentence. Last question. One thing everybody can do to tap into their intrinsic drive is?
Find your why. Find out what's your bigger purpose. Really sit down and think about what impact you want to make. And if you can align that with helping others, you will be in such a good place.
Yeah. Amen to that. It's been great, Shane. I always enjoy catching up and talking with you. I always like to extract at least one thing. And you said so many things. I work with people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And this podcast, I get to bring guests on who are in alignment with helping people get unstuck. So thank you for everything you shared today. But I just want to kind of highlight again, people going within, right? Because that's where it starts. You can have all the best tools in community and all the best resources, but if you don't start from the inside out, you just don't maximize the effectiveness of anything that's in front of you or in your hand. And Shane, you've done a great job of providing amazing resources, amazing tools, and you're hands-on, and you're making a big difference. And it's great. I love talking to people who are in alignment and love what they do. So appreciate all your insights and everything you shared today. The community, you can check out Shane at prepexpert.com. You can check me out at jondwoskin.com. Shane, any last thoughts?
No, I think this was really fun. Thanks for the great interview, John. And I hope parents and students who are interested will check out prepexpert.com for our SAT courses.
Me too. Me too. Thanks, Shane. Great seeing you, man. Thanks so much. Hold
All
on.
right.
Stay on for 1 second. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, the community.